Hi guys, and welcome back to one of my videos. Paolo GT40 here, and the model I would like to talk to you this time, it is back in the day for me. It was my first resin production that I made now, I think more than 10 years ago. We go around 12 to 15 years ago right now, and it was mostly responding to my biggest desire to have in my collection something that was really a diamond in a model car collection, and it was the Lancia Delta S4, the mythical Delta S4 Group B car. The model that I made here, it was basically a kind of copy of the, I really don't know the original who made it in the beginning. It could be modelers, I think so. It could be Ken Relly. It was an incredibly skilled Japanese modeler. It was, anyway, I didn't have the original model, I had a copy of them, neither so well done. And it was back in time, I mean before, was what, a couple of years ago that BMAX Aoshima arrived on the market with a wonderful kit about, wonderful, we have to talk about that, I can make a video about my opinions, my idea about the Aoshima kit. Of course I bought it because when you find a model that is 50 bucks around and you want to have it in collection, this was stuff that was completely in a different range of prices, being resin, special wheels, metal parts, special decal, was a hell, became expensive in materials, I mean, exactly like a Model Factory Hero kit. Despite if back in time neither Model Factory Hero existed and they never did this model, even more in 24 scale. So back in time, to have your S4, you simply had to became mad, there was absolutely no other ways to have, instead of finding these ultra rare models. And that's why when I get a copy of them, I decided to make my own production of the part that I had. I didn't have the complete kit, I just crossed an auction from, I think it was eBay UK, that they sold just part of the kit with the despicable part, decal sheets and so on. So there was a lot of work to be fixed to have a decent model, to be able to assemble something. There was absolutely no photo etched part, the wheels were horrible, so there was a lot of stuff to do. And what I did here was basically to reproduce in resin a kind of amateur way of resin, because it was something really made by a guy I knew at the time. That was the only caster. It is not absolutely the producer and the great company that I have today making my own resin. This was absolutely much more homemade stuff, and it was the only way to have copies, because there was a huge request of my friends and the modelers that I know around that wanted to have in the collection the Delta S4 Martini Racer B group, So I made this very little production, and I think there was of course some stuff that you could improve, like a grill, like other details, part of the mechanic. You can see something there, Consider that this was anyway my modeling skill of 15 years ago, so it was not like I could do the model today with the level of detail that I can have today. So it was already for me quite a big challenge to produce this stuff, And I remember that back in time when we made this model, we had a problem. I say we because it was a team following this stuff, A guy making the decal that was still back in time, the beginning of Andrew, the graphic that I have today, and making excellent works about the decal and the colors and so on. And we made many tests, because back in time was absolutely problematic also to find company that were able to print your own decal sheet in Alps. Back in time, 15 years ago, was absolutely not like today. Not so much internet, not so much a possibility to keep in touch with the proper person. So it was absolutely a challenge to arrive to produce and to sell something that people can appreciate around you, mostly because it didn't have neither a connection to sell this stuff. I sold part of them in the latest year with the last production that I did. This was a bestseller back in time. I think I made nearly 200 pieces of this. For a resin production is quite a bit, And anyway, the model itself started like a kind of conversion scrapping part from a model that back in time was absolutely easy to find and not so special at all. That was the Lancia 037 produced by Yasegawa, and you had to take nearly the interior, many detail of the interior part of the windshield, many say also part of the engine, because also some detail you can take from that model. But you know, basically you had to destroy a box of the 037 to try to have this one. But you know, back in time to have this one, people loved them so much, even more in Italy, where there is so many enthusiast fan of rally cars. They wanted to do absolutely everything to have this car in the showcase, you know. And I remember that we had one of the biggest issue ever was around the wheels, because the wheels they were nearly always mistaken in this model, you know. We were, to have an idea, we were still quite far away from the first production of the Profile 24 kit about the Delta S4 that when arrived on the market. Also, I took 3 or 4 of them because I loved them so much, resell, but the model itself had a lot of mistakes, a lot of issues. The wheels also were quite mistaken, because they reproduced the rim that they use for the Earth configuration with a different setup. So usually when you see the videos of Toivonen, and the aggressive look of the car is mostly taken when they have the asphalt configuration. So when they have a slick tire, quite low side of the tires, and this particular rim that was a specific, I guess it was a magnesium rim that they used back in time, you know, for them, weighing nothing, you know, and the design was absolutely complicated. If you see the design here, and I remember that at least part of this, it was something that I found also here online, you know, because when you start to find stuff online, you get so enthusiastic, so you buy nearly everything. Sometimes, like in this case about the wheels, it was very good stuff, so I didn't made the master of the wheel, absolutely. I simply bought them, and I had from other modelers, and then I had the request to make more, because people looking at this wheel, they say this is absolutely the correct wheels. They were absolutely well done, so I made a very little copy. But back in time there was a lot of guys, at least in Italy, selling this. I think still today they are trying to sell these wheels to try to correct this back in the day models, you know. The decal sheet have been made by hand, I said before, and the quality was absolutely stunning. I remember that we had a kind of hell to find the proper dimension for the Martini logos and for the Martini stripes, the color of the Martini stripe, that in 99% of the model, despite the good quality of the company making the decals, they are not so correct in the reproduction of the different color that you have inside the Martini livery. And I remember that Andrew made all this side about the body a little bigger than how they should be. This because so many guys asked me to produce a decal sheet. I produced it, I think I still have in the catalog, a full A4 decal sheet about the Delta S4. In the sheet you can have the Martini livery. I asked him to make 4 versions, you know, the Martini livery, that was the official car that we see here, the other official car that was the 2-tip version, so with orange and green, and the third one that was the Grifone livery, that was the gold and black car Esso oil specific livery for the Delta S4, plus a basic logos and the basic writing to reproduce the ACV2 car, because already at the time I wanted to do, probably I will also make a video about the finished model of the ACV2 car, and trying to survive to what I've been around to the production of the kit that was the first 3D made master that I tried to produce back in time, you know. And so this for me was an absolutely great challenge. And still today I can see a lot of mistakes, little minor details that are a little different from the model production. But honestly, the biggest issue that I recognize, and I suspect, honestly guys, that in this model, this was much more correct than what we have today in the ordinary plastic box. And it is absolutely simple. It is the front end of the car that is in the proper dimension, checking the blueprints, checking the drawings and the measure that I had of the Delta S4. It seems to me that the model made in plastic is much more wider in the front end than this Delta should be. I mean, I suspect that still today the line taken by this resin kit was absolutely the nicest around of the Deltas for, of course, with all the limitation of the kit of the time, so resin, thick part to sand, detail that have to be reworked, so it's not absolutely an easy kit, but compared to the plastic model that now everybody have and everybody can finish in the nicest level ever, the problem is always around the fidelity of the shape. I guess that they made with a proper design, with a proper measure too, but I don't understand why there is a so huge difference between this body and the body made in plastic. That is absolutely, just looking at the plastic, the car look bigger, you know. It reminds to me kind of that Burago model that was around for so many years, that was basically around 122 scale, it was neither 124. If you see the Burago compared to this resin model, it's incredibly much more huge than this kit, that in my opinion is the best, still the best shape around about the Delta S4. This was not to sell anything, honestly, because this is a kit that is, I think it was really my first one, and it is a stuff that is already out of stock, I think, since already nearly produced 15 years ago. I think it's stuff that is out of stock at least since 8 or 10 years, so there is absolutely nothing left. I think I still have the master that I probably will finish in some way, because I like so much the car, and there is so many libraries to do around. And make a number 4, there should be, everybody want to do the Toivonen vehicle, the Toivonen Crest, or the car famous for the tragedy according to the Finnish champion, you know. So also I back in time made this. Today probably I will not do, I will do a 7, I will do a different or Biasion car, but not exactly the car of the tragedy coming from the great Toivonen pilot. I still like the model a lot. I made a little weathering effect because rally cars, I cannot, you know, about my trucks and so on, I cannot stand when they're completely glossy and completely perfect. Not at least the rally car. I can understand the racer, I can understand the Le Mans prototype when they are showing off, or basically street cars, but not at all a racer. So I made a little dust and also little smoke on the transparents, and the front 4 extra lights for the configuration of this asphalt setup, and I'm still really pretty satisfied with the result that I achieved, I repeat, many years ago with this incredible model of the mighty Delta S4. So that's it. This was my first kit, still existing, still in my showcase. I still love it, and thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.